too.
ARP money. I don't think.
Well, honestly, I don't know if I understand which one's supposed to be paying for it. We just knew it was gonna be provided,
The
basically.
bariatric one that had all the heavy stuff on it was done by the ARP money. The other ambulance was just a routine ambulance that we took out of the budget.
But it sounds
I didn't need
like
two.
what you're saying, if you took that one out of the budget and they took one off of ARP, that's how it's falling through the cracks. Am I wrong?
Maybe so, I don't know.
Uh,
I do not know that. I don't.
Y'all, I know y'all are stressed and I know y'all are at your max limit. They are. They're doing the best they can do. Were you able to look and see anything about that? I know that's been a minute or two.
I haven't today
We've been-
looked any
we've been
further,
going
but
through
I thought
it.
we kind of saw where it had already been taken out. I know it was taken off the ARP list.
That's where it is.
That one was, and that was a while, the one that was, actually, I was thinking they were both taken off the ARP list, but I haven't had time. There was just one though on the ARP list, correct? And that one was taken
That's
out.
correct. Out of health and welfare, when we did the prioritization, they were number 2 on the list for 241, 124. That's what went back to financial management. And I assume financial management forwarded all that to budget.
Yes. Yeah. He said that Tina went back through the minutes and she could not find anything. And some of this, like the dates that you're giving were prior to my time, so I can't really
Yeah.
say
I
what.
think it was, I don't know who
that point.
it was that we
But I
first
know
started.
it's not come through budget to be presented since we did the ARP list, and that was last year.
I couldn't buy it until you approved the ARP. That's when it gave me the authorization to buy the truck. It took 2 years from that day to say, I sent that invoice in, I've got that on it, that, and they started it. It's 2 years since then.
I think we ordered it on May 16th.
May
Yeah, May
16,
16.
22.
Yeah.
So it was actually just a year over on that one. It's 2 years now. When we order them now, it's 2 years.
Well, in the big ram, when I was still with this company, ambulances was very sought after. You couldn't buy them up. Everybody's buying them up. Mine got out, I ordered it like in October, I'm just hypothetically saying October. In January, the next year, the company came in and bought everything they had. They paid $4,000 to $5,000 more per ambulance. They took my order. They took a lot of people's, Johnson Cities, they took a lot of people's orders away, put them back on the scale to be processed through the factory again. I didn't find this out until later throughout, that's what they done, because that company they just bought everything out. And, but that's why it's took us so long to try to get, I know in Union County, I'm with the group that passes down over the state of Tennessee. They was having trouble, almost like us in a way, but he couldn't get them to understand, I said it you all, but they, down there in Union County, they didn't want to move it over to the next year on the ARP money. And they finally, he was delayed about 9 weeks. And they brought it in, voted for it, and everything was took care of. And I wondered back then, but I didn't hear nothing, hear anything, but I thought it was still there until just the other day.
Do you know if when they took it off in August, if they knew we'd already ordered it?
The ARP fund balance sheet here, I was looking at it, dated July the 29th of 22. It was under the priority list from the Health and Welfare Committee, the Foggy Elk Mills building and fire truck, the topic constables, which there was a certain amount that was requested for them, was 48,000. EMS ambulance at 241, 124, and Shepherd's End, which was 77, 426. They were taken out of the ARP, and the EMS ambulance was sent to budget. Not ARP, but budget for the county budget. it's the same time when we put 300,000 in reserve. We can use.
See, they took it out of the budget because I requested them to take it out. For
Is
the
there-
ambulance, because everything fell through with Poggy.
What date did you have on that? What date did you just look at?
7/29/22.
Okay, as far as, let's see here. On May the 5th, it was still in there.
Yeah, it was still up at 7/29 was when it was. The new document on 8/1, August 1, showed it that had been removed and,
Okay, that's when they were sold.
and taken from the ARP account.
Okay, that's when
In May,
those were still
Is
in
that
there.
right, May?
August 1.
August.
Yes, that was May. So you need how much?
It's 241,000.
124.
Wait just a minute. Okay. That's right, we're waiting. That's the new one. That's new. All right, let me show you something. And I still ain't understood it yet. In 4/6/22, when they re-invoiced it again, it was $241,124. I requested another invoice because the owner up there separated and closed his, he retired. He sold the truck. Now I need $221,872 to purchase that truck.
It's actually a little less.
It's less.
For some miracle.
So it's 221,872.
It's about a
$20,000.
Some $1,000 difference. That's why I've held on to this and this. That's the final quote for that truck. And it's, everything's on it. I don't know if the owner was, I don't know why he had it charged so high. I don't know what the mistake was, if his adding was wrong, but that was the final quote. $221,000.
I can pick it up off the webpage. August, all the August meetings are missing.
Keep finding them.
Couldn't find them.
So when we approved your budget at 371,105, neither of those ambulances were in that at that time, right?
That,
No,
last year.
Last year's budget.
That was in
We
20.
have it in there for
No,
That
we-
was, actually, that was
we-
21. I'm sorry, it jumped back. But you ordered it then, right? And obviously, we don't have enough information to know 100% sure. And let's see what's, can we get this on for Monday night?
Well, it would have to be the information that comes from the budget committee, because that's where it,
That's what I'm looking at
Yeah,
right now.
there's
I'm
no-
trying to go through those.
Right, there's no August budget meeting posted.
I mean, I do have them on at home. Didn't I was gonna bring them tonight. Y'all don't have to call and give us a heads up. But
Look at minutes on the shared drive in here. That's what I was trying to do and I can't.
I'm
That's
getting
what I was
part of
gonna
it.
look at. August, I had traced it through to that point. I don't recall.
You remember when you requested him to take it out of the budget?
Ain't
Maybe
that
it's in the
in
minutes somewhere.
Are they in that meetings that we,
I didn't find it.
I think it was in that August stuff, maybe? I don't know.
I feel like we just clarified that, no, we weren't asking for two, we were just asking for one. But I don't know that when we
I
specifically
don't
said.
know when it was. That's why I was depending on the minutes to go back and research it full. Everything we've looked at so far, we can.
The whole thing I remember, I wasn't part of that, but I remember them taking out everything that Elk Mills asked for, which was an ambulance and a fire truck.
Yeah.
And when I looked at the last list, the rescue squad was still in there for one ambulance. Yeah, they took the one that we asked for away, but there was one in there for the EMS.
The ARP money.
Yeah, for the ARP money. And that's the last thing I remember seeing.
Yeah, that was the one that was 241, 124,
Mhm.
was the one that was taken out there. In my June 8 meeting, I had noted that there was an EMS ambulance for 241, 124, which is the initial earmark for Highway 321. And the second one was for 225, 510 was to come from budget.
Sorry, I don't.
We didn't get it for them. Oh, they didn't put it.
No, we never got it. It was all took out. Oh, name here. Oh, I didn't need it. The ARP stayed there.
That's all I know. I remember that much. I took the one that I had the quote for out. And that left them with ARP.
And that's when the geriatric, all that stuff came into play.
So you give me a quote for the other one, which didn't have the geriatric, didn't have the heavy stuff in it. It was other stuff. It was just a regular ambulance.
Right.
So that one was removed and I remember that part.
No,
I'll be honest, I don't really trust any of our memories. I have it in writing. I mean, is this
I
something?
just wanted to come to bring that to your
And I'm glad
attention.
you did, I mean, because we didn't
Anything I
know
can-
what happened one way or another. I mean, I would really, is this something that, I know we don't have a lot of time between now and Monday night with our regular meeting, but is there any chance that we can hunt this, get it on for Monday night?
I mean, we can go back through and look at it.
We have it in writing, that way we know exactly what
If it
happened.
is,
I think we could ask Gwen to do that from the clerk's office. Let her do that. I don't mind calling her tomorrow or stopping by there.
Well,
Ask her if she.
she's off tomorrow.
we knew it. That's all.
Get that.
Every
And
time you do something,
I don't mind
it goes out.
digging, I'll dig and I'll print it off, whatever I can find.
We don't have, as I said, we don't have
I thought it
any August.
Well, I've got my budget or my commission packet for the month of August of 22 pulled up and there's no budget minutes in that packet either. There's cheat sheets and there's,
Okay, well, the cheat sheet is your budget amendments. Does it show anything on there?
That's what I'm kind of thinking.
That would be the motions that he puts forward to the full commission.
yeah, but there's no minutes actually.
You know, I remember talking to Patty back then, and when they was building all these fire stations out of the ARP money, she asked me, I said, I need an ambulance, out of it. And she dealt with it from there on in, as far as the ARP side of it.
So this is before my time too.
Yeah.
But one question I've got is, if it didn't pass through as approved through financial management out of the ARP funds, who confirmed it for you to order those? I mean, who said, go ahead and order it, it'll be fine? There's a 512,
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
a month back, ordering a vehicle, yet it's not,
I don't know if it was Patty or the commission or who it was, I can't remember exactly, but I would not order the truck unless you all could. I didn't have money.
I mean, that would be my question.
Yes.
You know, we ordered it on May the 12th, but yet it wasn't approved through financial management. So, you know, to me, it should have been approved through the right channels
And it,
before the purchase.
It should have been a document
I
come to
didn't, I
you.
was told that, huh?
They should have been a document
Yeah.
come to you.
Yeah.
And you should have that document, say, here's what told me to go do.
You were approved for X amount of dollars.
That had been approval of a purchase order.
I mean, maybe the mayor, when she gets back, she can have documentations of it.
Well, they should have sent you a paper.
Yeah, I mean,
They just told me.
You're the one who's gonna order it, so before I order something, I need something in front of me that tells me to do that. A piece of paper,
They would give me that.
not
because
somebody's word.
They said that they had to have the invoice. I said, I can't get you an invoice until they have they bid it. You know, I'm playing the game, they're trying to snag 1 ounce out, you know, thousands or whatever, you know, down the road. And I didn't go out and just buy it. I promise you
Sure, you
that.
had somebody.
I'm just saying,
directing
you know,
to do it.
I understand your point.
you know, it should have went through the right channels.
Yeah,
I mean,
where's
if
the
it went
document?
Through the
That's what we're seeing. You
Yeah,
can't find the
Canadian
document.
approved, then
And I know that.
documentation.
I'm gonna give you a theory, and I think it'll match. You correct me.
I know where he's going.
At the time, our member in our financial management was the chair of the budget committee. And if you look at today, following the financial management, under the motion of that person to defer it to the budget committee for county budget, that is the same month that he resigned as chair and Frazier took over, and I bet odds 10-1 that it hit the rabbit hole.
That's bad, man.
It did not make it.
Only thing I can say is it's sitting up there. I can't do nothing with it. 30 days, it's gonna be took away.
Well, that's what I would like for us
Give
to
me another
be able
email.
to look into this. I want to know what happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
I agree too.
in writing what happened. So if we can possibly, no, I can't make a motion. Y'all are gonna have to do whatever you want to do, but I mean, I feel like we need to have a couple days to go back over our
Yes.
minutes and see if we can get it on Monday night. You okay with that?
What about the meeting, Madam Chair, after Monday night meeting? We're on schedule for the 12th, but I think we're gonna,
Oh, yeah, we need
We
to
need
talk
to
about
change
that.
all
We
the
need
commission.
to move the
Well,
date.
the 12th is budget committee.
Oh, okay.
We may need to move the date as well.
Okay. So it could be after that because Gwen is off tomorrow and she would have I think, a better opportunity.
maybe the following week.
I don't want to cut it too close because we don't want him to lose that if it's something
Yeah.
we're going to be able to fund.
You have 30 days, correct?
You've
From
got
that
the
date.
letter. You've got the letter. Yes.
Where's that now?
Is
What?
letter.
There, it's right there.
You got it?
Well, one of the resolves is that it, no funds available in the ARP. I don't care what you do. You can milk a cow, plead mercy and everything. That fund is gone here. So
Where did they take the money from this and change it back to somebody else? I mean, what, is that what they done? They took that and used it somewhere else?
when they deleted that fund that was for 124 or 224, 241 though, then it was divided up amongst the fire departments and something else.
There's no.
It was like several years ago. It's nothing to do now, but I gave them $30,000 out of my budget fire hall because one of the commissioners asked me, he said, we'll definitely get it back next year. I've never seen the 30,000 cents.
We took more away
But I
than.
took his word on it. He was chairman of the board. I quit doing that too.
July the 8th, they'll take it back.
Yeah,
Letter dated June
Yeah.
8th.
Thank you all for looking into it.
yeah, thank y'all. I'm
Appreciate it very much.
glad we work at it.
And somebody will be in touch with you whenever whichever meeting we set it at.
Either way, if you'll let me know.
Okay, we'll stay on top of this because
If
I
you
don't
need
want
me
you.
for anything or Nancy, just holler, we'll come back then.
Send you any information that you might have or something.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
all.
We appreciate you coming in.
Thanks.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, all right, next up is to approve the EMA disposal request. It's a notice to the budget committee that the EMA office is disposing of a broken chair and putting it in the dumpster. The chair is estimated to be at least 6 years old. The inventory number is 7812. So my Director Harold. I will entertain any motion. That's this one here. It's just the 11 format.
Motion to approve disposal.
All right. Mr. Deal makes the motion, Mr. Acuff is the second. Any discussion?
On a side note, who maintains these inventory and inventory numbers on all the items throughout the?
Make note that
Everybody
Point
point
of
to
defiance,
Director
Richard.
Watson.
Bean counter.
Inventory control.
What about it?
We-
Wanted to know who's in charge.
We take care of it when we order it. And when
Yeah.
was
Okay,
it?
You're the one that numbers all the items, yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
Who's the person that does everything else?
Any more discussion?
You.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Acuff,
Aye.
Layla Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cable.
Yeah.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Cody McQueen.
All right. Now, Chad passed back out the deferred budgets from last time. We had some questions on those, and, so if you want to get out one for the county buildings, which I believe was the insurance. And before we have any discussion, I would like to have a motion on the floor. This is for county buildings. Question on this one was the content insurance. If I'm correct on that, yes.
And the phone system was taken.
Yeah, the phone system was taken out, and then, the question on the contents. I will entertain a motion.
It was on the content, building and content insurance. The action of this, refresh my memory. We're gonna take it out totally, or will be a reduction in the amount?
No, there was some question about how expensive it was, and what the difference was.
It went up $24,000.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have a lot of new furniture in here now, which is what we were assuming, but, you know, we'll discuss that when we get to the discussion side.
Motion to approve.
And Mr. Deal makes the motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second, so we can have a discussion.
All right, that would be Dr. Acuff. Second. All right, now we're in discussion.
In that motion, the leader on it, that is for the 916. So we make sure,
That is this current budget that they have passed out to us, the $925,960.
bring them in, but ask for them if they include that
You
in
okay
the
with that?
motion, that way we can keep track of it.
All right, Dr. Acuff. And I note that the phone system has been removed. So, all right, we are in discussion.
Anybody know why the liability insurance went up that much? I mean,
Looks to me like the budget last year was less than what the bill ended up being. So I've got the bill for the way everything was dispersed. And we added 15% to that to estimate for next year. So it should have been 88,751 instead instead of 75. If you'll look back at the 21-22 actual, it lines up more with the numbers that I uncovered.
Did we ever determine what was actually insured as far as contents? It's not a policy, it's a policy that says what's been.
I didn't see anything with detailed items.
How could we pay a bill for something that you go look in a building and things are in there, and maybe there's things been removed, it's not there anymore. We're paying insurance on something that's not there anymore? What content?
We went through some of the items, like for example, we went through the sheriff's department, for example, on the vehicles. I did that last year, or I had someone do it. I was part of it, but I didn't do the whole thing. And had them go through and look at all the vehicles that were included. Now, did we do that with every single piece of furniture? No, there was not time to do that. It doesn't appear to me, based on what I've seen at this point, that's been done for years. That is one of the things that we are hopeful to be able to do this summer. But I can't, at this point, I can't guarantee it because there are other things that take precedence sometimes over something of that nature that's not as material as some of the other things that we may possibly be working on. This year during that process, they're going through the renewal process at this point. When we get that information from it, we will have the opportunity at that point to do what I did last year, which I picked that particular topic and said, okay, I want to see every vehicle that is insured, and then I'm going to go back and compare it to what the office holder says he has on his roster. And we made some corrections at that point. We will pick another one and do that this year. But the time from when we get it to the time that it has to be done, there is not enough time to do every single thing that's in this county. It's just not possible. So if the contents of the buildings is something that we need to look at, if they can give me a detailed list, more than likely when I've done these in the past with other organizations, is they've kind of done an inventory. I know last year they went in and looked around at buildings and looked at addresses of buildings to kind of make sure. They actually found, I think, a couple of buildings that they didn't have that we had to adjust that they weren't aware of from my brief conversation with them. But I will ask them more of those questions this year during the renewal. At this point, there's nothing we can do about what was done last year because that's already been done and been paid. All I can do is address what we're doing right now.
Well, to me, an inventory system would stop all that. If you had an inventory every year, every 2 years, you would get rid of some of this issues of, we're paying insurance on the building that's not there anymore. Or we're paying insurance on the equipment that's not there anymore. That should be an inventory process.
I don't disagree with that, but we can only do so much. I cannot force the office holders to do it, so we can just make recommendations.
But when we're running the government for the people, we should know what's in our inventory at all times. And that evidently we don't know.
From the large items, the fixed asset list that we oversee, there's no issues with that. It's the smaller items that are, I don't want to say immaterial, but they're not they don't meet our fixed asset threshold. Those are the things that are also included on a policy that I don't necessarily have the opportunity to manage. That's one of the projects, as I had stated earlier, that we plan on looking at this summer as time allows. That's one of the things we're going to talk to interns about that we're going to have from Milligan. But has that been done historically? Why has it not been historically? I have no idea. It wasn't here. All I can do is address what I can going forward as time allows for us to do that.
Just looking at it, I think a more accurate accountability for those items would be from the department heads or the directors to keep up with that list when they take away something like Billy has this chair, then they can give a list that will be accurate. It'd be hard for you to compile a list for the animal shelter or the register of deed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to me, it would be department driven to what they have, a list of what they have.
That's what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to actually have a list that has a tag number, and then that tag number is supposed to correspond with that. What I think has happened over time is some offices do it, some offices don't. So what we hope to do, at least for a few of the offices, there's no way we'll probably get through all of them, is go through and say, okay, give me your list, if it exists. If it exists, let's go through and let's look and see if this stuff is here. If it's not, then let's take care of it. If there are things in your office that don't appear to be on the list, then let's go ahead and get them tagged and get them done. But that'll be an office by office process, and that I've been through physical inventories before, and that takes quite some time to do.
I have to, I just felt like that it would be better accountability by department.
It wasn't before prior to my retirement from the county. The department head was totally responsible for that. And every time that, when they sent a receipt invoice to finance for payment, a return would come with a sticker identifying the piece of equipment and all, and that was used for the audit system. If I'm not mistaken, this year's audit, that is one of the strongest recommendation is to have that completed or to get it going. The other observation, it seems like previously that Commissioner Cable had made mention to things as workers' compensation insurance, that it's so variable. Previous administration, I think, had just taken the previous billing, maybe, I don't know if they had recategorized the different employees' positions. But those items, as the finance director mentioned, that's going to take some time, but those are 4 areas there in liabilities, and anything that has to deal with insurance of other employee, that's going to have to be dug into. I mean, there's no way around it. Plus equipment inventory.
Yeah, I mean, we addressed stuff last year, like when I got that list that had all the vehicles on it, I'm like, there's no way we have that many. So that's when I said, okay, I want, who's got what? And let's go through and look. And so we were able to make some adjustments. There were some things that were basically sitting that were non-operational. And I said, why are we insuring them? So they got pulled off and they got sold on Gov Deals, or they got disposed of, whatever the case happened to be at the time. The auditors have come back and said that we need to be more strict with what we're doing tonight, which is as someone disposes of a piece of equipment, property, whatever, they have to bring it through and have it approved before they can just get rid of it. Some departments have done that, some are not. I've made them aware that it needs to be done. But at the end of the day, I don't know what they have and what they don't. So that is very difficult for me to police that. But as we go through this renewal process, we can ask those questions just to make sure we are properly insured, because the other thing is you don't want to be underinsured, which is just as bad as being overinsured if you have a problem, a catastrophe, a fire, or something like that. You want to make sure that you're balanced out in both directions and not underinsured, just in case.
So the auditor suggested basically something like we're doing with this item.
Yes.
When they want to. So I guess I'm trying to, you mentioned earlier they were supposed to, basically the officers were supposed to be keeping their own inventory. And I guess if the auditors are saying we need to do this, I'm wondering if there's some statute that is on state books that we're supposed to, that the officers are supposed to be keeping their own book or inventories, and they're not doing that.
I've not had the time, honestly, to research whether it does or not.
No, it's part of the financial policies and procedures of the county. That's what it is.
So that's what the auditors are basing it off of, not based off of state.
Certainly, yes. And if they had an audit finding for that, they would discuss it with that office holder. I mean, ultimately, it's written up against the county and the finance department, but I mean, that office holder would give an explanation as to why, just like every year in the audit.
The audit finding was geared more to, we did a system conversion of basically having fixed assets in Excel spreadsheets manually. And we tried to convert that to the accounting system because there is a fixed asset module. There was, the person who was in charge of that left, the person who took it over missed a couple of things. I think it was due to lack of training, basically, and being new at that, and it was right about the time of year-end close. And so that's what was basically written up on the audit, is there was kind of a little bit of a disconnect on a few pieces of equipment that didn't get put into the new system. That was the biggest issue with that. The other thing is in that transition, I had asked that invoices be copied and attached basically to the file. That process did not get completed. But in the midst of that, some of the invoices didn't get copied. And so when that was brought to my attention, I had it done, we had it done within 24 hours. That they had been pulled and recopied. And I gave them to the auditors at that time. So there was nothing, out of sorts. There was nothing missing. Everything was accounted for. It just didn't make it from the manual process into the Skyward system. And so that was part of the issue too, is that someone should have balanced that. And like I said, there was a transition right at about the time the year end closed and the auditors came and looked at that particular topic. So, but as soon as we realized there was an issue, it was rectified within 24 hours. But it still got written up on the audit.
Any more discussion? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Chad?
Read the motion because it's been a while.
Yes, Chad, will you reread the motion? Or
Made a motion. Motion to approve building and grounds, an amount of $925, $916 on system removed. Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Scott Greco.
Aye.
Linda Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cable,
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
David McQueen.
Thank you, guys. Okay, next up is going to be the EMA. Let's see. Really, we passed this one. Okay, this one is just minus, it's a new sheet with minus the vehicle, correct?
Yeah, that's the only thing that
Because we
changed on that
passed
one.
his last time, with minus the.
Minus the vehicle, so
Yeah.
this is an updated copy.
So do we need to go ahead and,
Well, I think we wrote on it that it was. Well, the EMA one, is the one she's talking about now.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing else had changed, but because there was a revision, we need this copy to be the official approved.
okay. All right, then, this is the new copy for the EMA, minus that vehicle. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Dr. Aiko makes a motion. Mr. Cable makes a second. Any discussion? Discussion, Chad, call the roll, please.
Brad Johnson, Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Scott Greco,
Aye.
Linda Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cable.
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
David McQueen.
Second ayes. Thank y'all. Okay, next up is going to be solid waste, the sanitation fund. I am gonna have to rely on you guys. What all
I
things?
was not at that meeting, so had to come in, because I could hear bits and pieces. I tried to listen in. When I was in Murfreesboro, but I had a really bad connection. But what was changed on that is $50,000 was taken out of disposal fees. Is that, Ginger, is that correct? That's what I.
Yes.
Correct.
Disposal fees, 55754, 359000.
Yeah, and it should be color coded green. Oh, no, never mind. The green did not come through. Sorry. Yeah, 55,754, 359 disposal fees. It was supposed to be green, sorry.
You had enough money in your budget to buy a toner, did you?
$359.
I gotta quit printing colored copies.
Yeah, 359,000.
It's the next to the last page.
Was that the only thing that you did?
For this budget, yes.
It's 3.
You want me to speak to it a little more?
Yes.
Okay, so the landfill committee took your all's request to heart. And the budget was sent out by the chair for us all to review before the meeting. Ben's looked over it, Steve's looked over it, Chris has looked over it. And basically, we felt like we couldn't cut it anywhere. We talked about several lines, but we really felt like we would talk about how much had been spent and different things. You know, there were questions asked. Please know that. But in the end, for the sake of everybody, Ben suggested that we take money from disposal fees. That is one of his biggest expenses. And he does need about that much based on historical data. He does need the 600 and some that it was. But he said if we take it from that, that at least gives him a few months to try to generate that $50,000 so that it's not lost completely, if you know what I mean. He's going to try to earn enough revenue to make up for it. Steve, Chris, am I saying this?
In a good faith, if y'all don't mind, Madam Chairman, is that okay? Good faith effort, dealing with the budget committee to move forward. And instead of trying to cut something which would be a fund that would take 30 to 60 days to recoup through the budget committee, that they could utilize it and give their self areas by using the disposal fees to cut that back, because you've got about a 90-day grace period there from the time that you take the trash there to the time that we actually pay them. So that gives us an area to regenerate and bring in the revenues to make that happen. Do we need that disposal fee? Yes. Do I agree with cutting it? No offense to anybody, but I say don't cut it. And I'll give you a bunch of information here in just a few minutes. But if it makes everybody happy, I mean, he's going to have to come back and ask for it if revenues are down. So be prepared. That's all I want to say. If you want to take that 50 grand, you know, 50K is not a whole lot in the big scope of things, but it is a good intention by the landfill committee and the director of the landfill.
I got one. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing about the disposal fees. When you cut your disposal fees, but if you increase your recycling, then that's gonna reduce your disposal fees, because when you get that culture going, there's gonna be less going to the landfill, less disposal fees transferring it out of there. So to me, if we can increase our recycling, maybe it'll offset that need for that 50,000 in the disposal fees.
And that's what we want to do, because recycling is an unfunded mandate as stipulated through the Tennessee Department of Environmental Conservation through the federal sources of EPA, a reduction of 32.5%. Stephen, is that what it is? We've met those goals. We have been able to meet those goals for many, many years. I've been out of this game for about a decade and a half now, plus or minus a few years. So I'm trying to get caught up all in a matter of days and get a little aggravated. Sorry, some people, but I do, and I apologize. But anyways, long story short, I'm beating it down. You know, it's tit for tat. Yeah, I don't know if we can come up with $50,000 worth of recycling. I hope we do. It tickle me to death, make life grand, and I think there's a possibility, especially if we can get the city of Elizabeth back on board and get our convenience recycling centers back up. And I hope to talk to them about that in the future, being Stephen and Benny, and go and see if we can't work out a good end result on that so that we do have that picked up. And I agree with you. Recycling is the key to it. Less things we put in, and less things we have to haul. Now, something else you gotta look at too. Our permit or our agreed contract right now, Miss Carolyn, for our disposal is on its 3 years, Stephen, Carolyn. We got 3 years left on this contract with about $1.40, $1.75 increase per ton per year. So we gotta look at that increase. When this ends, it's gonna be like a weight dropped on top of our head. It's gonna be terrible. Historically speaking and factually, you can check around the area. People that do not have a contract or new contracts has been initiated, almost double. It's like insurance, health insurance. You get screwed every time you turn around on it, but you have to have it. So with that said, we got to be prepared for that. Recycling, we can pump it up. You know, we've got a new building down there. We've got some pretty good people working there. We're working on getting a slab poured and getting a convenient area for them to recycle. Benny's on top of that. The board's on top of that. Stephen's on it. So that's moving forward. There's a couple of questions about the right of way, the turnaround stuff. That's all stuff that can be dealt with. That's moving forward. So yeah, that reduction will be super. But the reduction of the household waste, things of that nature, you know, the education of the individuals and things of that nature. When you throw your Pepsi bottle and it's halfway full, hey, how about throwing it down the sink and then crush it and put it in there? Airspace is money and weight is money in solid waste. That's back before I worked here, before Brad and Truman Clark hired me. That's one of the things that we did. We did solid waste. A lot of these landfills around here, I was there on design. The last few years, I was actually operating a landfill. So, and it's very successful, even though it was a terrible landfill. But now there's a new one with it. So life's good. I'm back in the game a little bit. I'm going to help them as best I can and assist the citizens. I mean, I've got 57,000 people that I consider my family here in this county that I've got to take care of too. So that's where we stand. But there were some questions on leachate, things that way. You know, we've got the transfer stations that we have to look at permitting, maintaining, and controlling. Okay. Right now, we're pretty good with transfer stations. Everything are looking pretty good. Our recycling is doing fairly well. I mean, we've got some trashy recycling and things of that nature. We're trying to work that out as we can. Stephen's on it. I think people are getting more enlightened. I think Stephen, he got really enlightened last week. He looks a little shell shocked, but he did pass his course in a very great manner, which that was a good thing for him. We've got notice of violations. We've got inspections that we have to handle. So we've got a recycling center we got to maintain. We've got our transfer station we got to maintain. We've got a class 4C, 3-4 C and D on the hill that's running out of life. That is an active landfill, and there's a lot of rules / wannabe / inspectors are going to force it through the state of Tennessee because it's coming down to them hard from the federal government. So there's things that we're going to have to deal with. We've got new inspectors out there that are there to make a name for themselves. You know how people are. They get a little bit of power. Their name, are out there to make a name for themselves. There's some situations we have there. A few of you know, and I've discussed some information over the past 6-7 months, some things that we can do. But I mean, the cash cow's gone. The class 1. Now we have a closure, post-closure. Was it done correctly on closure? I don't think so. Can we fix it? I've got a plan. That plan will be something to assist us to maintain our transfer station abilities there and to extend and possibly modify our class 4 to keep that running, to keep revenues coming in, recyclings, and maintaining our transfer stations. I'm not 100% on it right now, but I do know we're sitting looking at this coming fiscal year. We It's being pushed down by TDEC that we're looking somewhere between 15 to 25K on a major modification on our existing permit, on our permit for the DML 100094, which is actually our class 4 C and D.
That's the one on the left as you go up.
The one on the right as you go into the landfill. That's the active component. Okay, so we've got that. And if we're gonna have to do that, they've already pushed us to we won't have to period cut and dry on that permit. We're gonna have to do, and it's gonna be a major modification to our permit, which that's just the engineering fees. That doesn't count into the fees on the application and the public notices, public comment periods, the whole 9 yards when you do a major modification. Even a minor now, they want public comments, so you've got many days it has to be operated on, things of that nature. First thing they're wanting us to do, our engineering, our on-site engineers want us to do is to, and TDEC pushing very hard, is we'll have to do another LiDAR, which is, I'm contacting some of the local engineers to see where we stand. Anybody's close enough to fly ours and save us $7,500. So I've got it down. Possibly, if this works out at the, I can't say who it is, but if it works out for another construction company that's doing something, they're gonna fly the drone over and get that LiDAR for us too. A lot of information there, but right now our consultant engineer is looking at $7,500 to do it. I think I can get it down to about 25. We'll get that much saved. But we have to have that. But while we're doing that, the expansion of the other situation, we might as well have it flown, because it's not gonna be that much higher to fly 14 acres than it is for 27. If that makes sense. So it might cost us another $1,000, but I'll have more information there. You know, our leachate and methane testing on the left-hand side, is Mr. Johnson likes to say, it is our old class 1, which was AKA the cash cow. And that was operated, started in 84, and then closed down in 86, and it went through closure in 96 to 96 to 97, and closure. And it's very questionable if the closure was completed and corrected in the proper manner. And with that said, that's where our leachate problem comes in, folks. And myself and Mr. Steve went and looked at it, and Benny agrees, the director. We've got some work to do up there. One thing that they say that we have to maintain in our post-closure to meet the criteria of our permit for our class 1, which I don't have it here with me, I have it at my desk, is to maintain at least twice a year removal of brush, things of that nature, and bush hogging basically the slopes. That's so TDEC can walk with it and see what it is. That's understandable. It went up this year. It went from $1,500 per treatment to $2,400 is what he came in at. Now, I ain't scared to ride a tractor anywhere. But when we first took that over, I took my tractors and we bush hogged that thing down and stuff when it passed, and I ended up with it. And Chris Schuler don't like it. And I'll ride anything. You'll see some places I know, hey. And if this gentleman wants to do it for $2,400, you can't rent a piece of equipment for that to do it with it. God bless him, and say a prayer when he gets there. So we're going to look at that, and that's some money we're going to have to come back and ask you here probably pretty soon. I've got to sit down with Miss Carolyn, and this wouldn't even be a topic right now, but she was doing her schooling. I didn't want to bother Chad with it because he was trying to get all this stuff done, plus some stuff I asked him for. And so we've got to sit down and discuss that, and I have to bring the chairman of the waste board in on it too, and I think he's out of town now. So we've kind of got a situation there. But with that spoke of, our methane, things of that nature. Right now, I checked 4 wells. We're not pumping methane. Best, it's the old dollar trick. I don't know if any of you know that, but anyways, it's not pumping. We're blessed, but we may be losing some methane through our cap. So we have to look at that. This is all class 1 discussions, okay? Nothing that anybody done prior to, other than since I've been there, since it was turned over to my office years ago, and turned it back over under Mr. Humphreys, and then it went, long story short. So that situation, It's something that has to be worked. It's something that's feasible, it's workable. We'll be able to do it ourselves. Probably, but probably not. It'd be a lot quicker to get it taken care of. When you're taking $6,000 a tanker of leachate to Johnson City, that's a lot of money every time you fill that up. So that's a lot of money coming out of the revenue basis and what's being generated by that landfill. So it's a money business. It's basically a money, it is a business, period, cut and dry, whether it's government or not. It's supposed to be for profit again, and I'm sure it was, but I don't know where that profits have went to over the many decades. So
Got a long thing short. So in other words, everything's just a bed of roses. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Mr. Johnson, the best I can tell you, it ain't pretty.
No.
But and it's nobody to blame. It's the nature of the beast.
Well, there's, the nature of that beast is wore out.
Yes, sir.
And I agree with you, Mr. Deal, that recyclable is a revenue source that has to be pushed and used to make sure it's operational. And then I know that our buildings wore out as far as our collection station.
Getting ready to hit that.
I mean, it is running twice the capacity of what the building was used, and the building is old. It is frayed. The structure itself has decayed, before long. I expect to see it fall over in a good wind. But with all of that said, that means that that's going to be the number one project in the county coming up. Now, the cuts is fine, but I'm like Director Shooter says, I myself would not want to ask for any cuts tomorrow, because we're gonna have to turn around tomorrow and come in here and get more money because it's in bad shape. The next thing you have to throw the flag up is, let's look at where we stand. We have an interim director, which is a great guy, does a great job. We've got a certification on. But you have a director that will be coming back within possibly 20 days. Okay, the plans of mice and men takes effect. What we map out, what is done out of the background knowledge of our present planning director and everything, could go right down the toilet hole. Then where are we at? But I thought even the biggest thing was the platform for the collection at the recycle center that was approved 60 days, 90 days ago we funded it, for them to pour it, get the dumpsters on there, everybody patting on the back, yep, it's ready to go, we're receiving. And then I find out, slab ain't even been pulled.
I've yet to jump into that yet. Me and that contractor will be having a discussion if it ain't poured by Monday. And leather injections are.
All of this stuff could change. All this could change in 45 days easy. And we don't have any result. Now, the next biggest thing is September. You know what that does to us, commissioners? September is the rotation, if there's going to be rotations. That is the time also that new chairs are positioned. Now, look what you got to go through here. Then there's nothing easy about that over there at all, period. So, and that is a big, you can do everything here we can do at our desk, but if you don't have, and I'm not saying it or not, or present with, but we don't have assurance that we will have a strong committee, which is under the Private Act, which is one that governs that operation. So where are you going to be? We presently don't have any land subject to look at to expand or to move. We have not even went as far as writing the RFP to find an engineering firm to come in to do the preliminary, to give us a cost estimate of what it's going to do to get it up to speed for a transfer, for dump, for anything. So all of those are long day times, and here we are, we're having to run an operation, and they're going to be running on thin ice without a doubt. And I know they're going to be coming in here quite frequently, so
So what I did, Mr. Johnson, I went back and I looked, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time on it, but I pulled back several years back and started looking at where our reductions and increases and our adjustments we had to do in there. Mr. Lyons and Mr. Sampson, I can't think of the chairman's name, I apologize. They did some major cuttings. Yeah. Mr. Kemp, they did some major cuttings prior to it going back to the board. And it coming to you this last time. It's just Chris saying, I don't think it's a good idea to do any cuts. There's a way to get us out of this hole. We're not gonna come out smelling like a rose, but we're gonna come out maybe smelling like peppermint, maybe. And I'm not talking about 2 years down the road. I'm talking 10, 15, and 20 years down the road. That makes you gotta look that far, at least the minimum in solid waste, especially with the mandates that comes through the state of Tennessee that drops back on us. Something else we gotta remember too, we've got a lot of new young people down there. Luckily, I got to talk to some individuals, and I've got some contacts still out in the business and stuff. So we're working on that. So our C&D expansion, I think there's a possibility we can utilize it. They say it can't be done, but it's awful funny thing. It's been done 7 times already in the state of Tennessee in the last 5 years. So that could take care of major problems. And we have leachate problems, depending on our expansion. It may not give us a loan period, and we may have to spend some money, but it'll at least keep it operating long enough to where we can pay for the renewal of the transfer station or the remodeling situation of the transfer station to make it go and make it work correctly. When we got there, we still got the same excavator that we had a decade and a half ago that only had 50% undercarriage. Right now, it's falling apart every time you move it. We're not asking for one, not this moment. We're doing our parts and putting it back together. But Komatsu, our equipment will get you every time. We've got a heck of a mechanic up there. Let me tell you, I used him on my quarry myself once I saw him up there working. He fixed a 325 Caterpillar that my guys up there busted. That power equipment and Stowers both went and fixed. The boy had it running in 15 minutes and rolling and operating. He's a good man, he's a good mechanic, and he's reasonably priced. So I'm not dealing with that part of it, but I'm just saying we're pinching pennies as best we can. And expansion of the C&D,
It's on the floor.
Yeah,
So
there's a motion.
the expansion of the C&D and everything, but right here's what I'm dealing with right now.
Chris,
So
something good.
I'm gonna take care of it.
Cut your dissertation.
Yes, sir.
So we get the rest of the night.
I kept them here a long time the other night.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation.
And I'm transparent. Everybody knows you can call me. Sometimes if you text me and I don't answer, you're in a meeting. It might be because I'm between Fish Springs driving and stuff. I'm getting really safety conscious.
So that being said, I'll entertain any kind of motion on this budget. It can be for this amount here.
Madam Chair, I propose to put a motion that we leave that is submitted to the loan. Do not cut it. If there's any cuts other than what's been presented for the solid waste, which should be an amount of 1,982,955.15.
No, that is the new cut, right?
Is that-
That's with the 50, the
Is
last
that with the
amount.
50 in it? All right, so we don't have to add that to it, so.
So it would be from last week, which would be
14, that'd be 2,
2,032,955.15.
hang on,
That was your-
let money back over here.
I'm just looking at it from last week.
Should see it be the same as it was last week. If you got last week's in front of you.
I do. Would you pass that to her, please?
In the amount of $2,032,955.15.
Exactly.
All right. So Mr. Johnson makes that motion. Do I hear a second?
One second.
Mr. Cable, second. All right, we've discussed everything except the color of the moon today. So is there anybody else got anything else to discuss on this subject?
The only question I had was we have got brought up last time about the maintenance and repairs, the parts and things. They had purchased some new equipment, and got some new stuff, but we were looking at expenses for the bulldozer and stuff, and some of those items seem to either stay the same or decrease. So I can't see on mine, it says, item is 335, 336, 330. When I look at those, it doesn't really give me a description of what I'm looking at. So that may be something else entirely. I'm just looking for specifics. You got maintenance and repair services.
Yeah, on 335, 336, and 338 is what you're discussing. That's the different equipments that we have, whether it's a actual on-the-face working piece of equipment, a transfer piece of equipment that's working actually in the transfer stations, the truckings, and also the small vehicles that haul our personnel back and forth, and also hauls our diesel that we receive at the highway department to our other areas for our compactors and things of that nature. Most of it, and our oils and things of that nature, you have to go through your compactors on each one of the transfer shots and convenience centers. So with that said, yeah, there's a lot of equipment that Mr. McQueen, working in trash, was just, you got to break it down on what trash we're working. Okay. So our dozer and our compactors on our class 3, class 4, which is on the right-hand side of the landfill as you go in. That is the most difficult. Let me rephrase that. Of what we deal with, that is the most difficult and rough terrain to run a piece of equipment on. It's just the nature of the beast. You have wires, you have things of that nature that gets in there and gets clogged up into your bearings. If you get a piece of wire wrapped around that dozer and it's walking back and forth 217 times today, and that piece of 9 wires wrapped around there, well, that seal on that bearing, if it gets wedged in there right, is gone. Operator's not going to know it because we don't have a steam system up there to where we can clean our tracks out every day. Well, they have shovels, they do it every day. We're doing a preventive maintenance now up there, and I've yet to come into it yet. Stephen's handling it, but equipment's looking a little better every time I go by there. So there's things in that beast that we're dealing with that really eat stuff up. If we have any fireables that comes through, like say some crushed sheetrock, something of that nature, that gets into the breathing system of it. Well, from my own experience in the last few months, I did maintenance on all my equipment. Cheap filters of Wix, it's not out there anymore that you can get them within the day that you want them. Even if you pre-order, you're still looking 30 to 45 days out. So I ended up having on my tractors, I've got K&N filters. I don't know if you know anything about cars. They're expensive filters, and I put them on there. My Caterpillar, which is gone now, I sold it. I had to put K&N filters on. $375 for a pre-air filter. That used to be, if you got it from Wix, for about $59. So everything's went up, and it's terrible. Bearing systems, SKF, if you go and get a bearing right now, a bearing that was $10 last year at this time, it's anywhere from $23 to $35 plus shipping if you can get it even locally here. So everything's really went up. I'm not trying to fuss. I'm just telling you the nature of the beast. Where you see the wire and the increase in wiring for recycling, just take you a trip down to Tractor Supply, walk back in there, go to the barbed wire and the fencing. Then you ask one of the managers there, how much did that cost last year? She'll say $29.95. Then why is it $75.60 now? Because it's went up.
Oh, yeah, always.
All wire, anything metal. Our world is terrible right now, and there ain't a thing we can do about it. So we got to plan ahead. And instead of coming back in and saying, hey, guys, we need $10,000, $15,000 in 3 or 4 months. Let's keep that there. Now let's build with it and see if we can't make it through the year. Maybe turn some money back. It's good work, Bill.
Okay, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any more discussion? No? All right, call roll.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Michael Rico,
Aye.
Layla Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cable,
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Cody McQueen,
Schuler doesn't get to
Chris
vote.
Schieffer.
Say nothing else. And I wasn't trying to be smart. I'm gonna stare.
All right, y'all.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick 10-minute break.
Sales.
Well, no, because this one didn't get back in there with smart writing, so we deferred to it. So I need to get that one.
Everybody's like, Donnie.
Y'all need to discuss that.
Will you send me the number?
Yeah, I know.
My dogs are gone.
Hey, Carolyn, I'll see you sometime.
And
I don't even know.
next up on our previously deferred is the communications. And that's Mr. Writing's budget. There was some question about the other equipment for 19.5. And let's see, did that total stay the same? Yes, it did. Let's see. All right. So what did we find out about that? The 19.5
19.5.
that they were questioning for the BO test equipment and new equipment.
That was, there was a series of test equipment that I wanted to order so we could get set up, so we could run the operations and do all the testing that we needed, either on base stations, mobiles, whatever. And going through the process, I actually found the two major pieces of equipment that I wanted were actually cheaper than they originally thought they were going to be. But then I was able to order some other pieces of test equipment to supplement that as well. And a couple of those pieces of test equipment and a couple more radio-related equipment that I wanted to order actually total up a little over 19,000, but through working through some numbers, I can actually get it down below the 19,000, so I can purchase that stuff for the radio system for supplemental testing.
All right, does anybody have any questions for Mr. Writings?
So this wasn't covered under the ARP funds?
That's a good question, because I don't know, that was a gray area with me. I didn't know exactly what was going to be covered and what wasn't. I didn't know what tools and what equipment would be covered. So we had initially set up, I think it was $100,000, 90,000 or $100,000 or something. I don't remember exactly what it was in the budget for the test equipment. And I'm actually able to buy more, but I don't know if that needs to come out of the county or if it needs to come out of the ARP.
Well,
But it's for the radio system.
Communication will come out of ARP.
Exactly.
Right. It's for communications and it's for the system.
If it's anything other than what's in this right here, except for the test equipment. And that's what the question was, that in your original estimate, when you, or I'm going to say your department head says, okay, we're going to do it for 4.5 million or 5.4 million or whatever, but was that equipment in your estimate, which is a part of the total amount of the project? That tells me where the money comes from.
Right. That actually wasn't, that equipment wasn't actually in there at that time. It's something that I found out working through the last year, that equipment that we need.
This equipment is an addition to your ARP fund. Is that correct? The one you got on your budget, 19.5.
Yes.
So in essence, that'll stay the same then, what? After that. That means the $19,000. Well, I understand.
So it was in your estimated amount when you did the initial.
In the initial, it wasn't in there in the initial part of it, no.
So it means that's out.
Okay, well, the floor is open for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Is that with the 19.5 in there, Layla, or as? Okay.
Is 122, is that with 19 in it or? not?
Yes, the 122,
268.11.
is with the 19.5. It's in there.
So it stays the same.
Okay, so Layla, you are recommending, we'd like to have that in the motion for
Yes.
$122,268.11 as presented on this paper, So Ms. Ward made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Deal seconds. Any discussion? Thank you, Mr. Ridings. I appreciate you.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Dr. Echo. Wood,
Yes.
Donnie Cagle,
Yes.
Danny Bull,
Yes.
Brenda Quinn.
All right, 7 ayes. Thank you, guys. All right, that takes care of the precinct and budgets. Next up is decision and to vote on the presented department expenses. Is there anything on that one?
That was what we did.
So we basically, yeah, okay, so it was a 2-for-1 there. Okay, any additional budget item discussions that y'all can think of?
For myself, I think that what came in at the end of the previous budget meeting concerning the outside agency.
Okay.
That this committee had passed on 5/18 the outside agents identified that were required by contract, that we remain at that same hour as a committee. Point being that our responsibility in this committee is to be diligent and get it as low as we conceivably possibly can and remain giving the same service that we're giving to the citizens or to the taxpayers or to the county. That is the recommendation of the budget committee to the full floor, and it's totally up to them if they want to accept it. Now, from the chair's point of view, that I think would be it would be mine if I was chair, say, okay, here's what our recommendation is. If you deny it and you want to make changes, anything you do will increase your tax rate. Totally. So have at it. Knock yourself out. We have succeeded in doing what we mapped out we were going to do to start with. And I think we've worked hard at it. And I think we have a good plan until basically at the end, when the suggestion was made, then I'm just going to let them follow their own sword.
3 cents on the tax rate, correct?
Yeah. You need to express them. Not that I mean, I can hang out there by myself. I don't want to get you off.
It never comes down. The tax rate will never, ever go down. And that's why what you're saying is more relevant than ever, because we are the last line of defense for these taxpayers and all these same people that were affected by the nonprofits. even more so are affected as county residents. So, if not us, then who?
Did we make the motion the last meeting to, yeah, because you had it, you made the motion.
We made the motion at the last meeting, which was unanimous, to let agencies know that, one, we would at least fund them at the 22-23 level.
Yes.
There would be no increase. That was the intent. And to put them on notice with a letter to each outside agency that going forward, we would be reducing that rate. And they'll need to come up with some additional outside funding, either through grants, revenue generation, contributions, et cetera. That was the intent of the motion, and I think that's what everybody agreed to.
That's,
I thought it was a commitment made in that motion.
well, it was, basically that we
We were
intended to fund them.
committed
To.
We didn't say we were going to do it out of the budget.
That was a commitment, yes.
And it was after our budgetary process was done, unless something changed, I guess. When we had,
So the big question I had is the same one I had last meeting. Those checks are cut, whether it goes through the county budget or through coming to full commission or budget and then full commission through the unassigned fund balance. What's the ETA on the check? So if it goes through, if it's approved through budget and approved through full commission to come out of the county budget, that we fund them, when would they get those checks?
So those checks should not be cut until the state approves the budget. There was one exception to that last year. But everything else, when the budget was passed, basically, I told them they have to send in a letter requesting the money. And so we had some that had gone ahead and sent their letters in, and we just held them until the budget was passed. Once the budget was passed, then they could have that money. Some of them don't do that, and they just request it sometime during the year or before the end of the fiscal year. I think I've got one laying in there on my desk right now that's being requested for this fiscal year. And some are done on a quarterly basis, that they request the money on a quarterly basis, and we pay it out as they request it.
But I mean, what would be the date? Roughly.
it just depends on, once this is done and it's finalized through the full commission,
And then the state approves it.
then the mayor approves the budget, and then y'all send it off, right? And then the state approves it, but how long did it take them last year? 30 days?
It was near the end of August when we got.
It was the checks were cut the first, I think it was around the 8th or 9th of September, something like that.
So the checks were cut the 8th or 9th of September. So if we do, as we said, and fund them request out of them coming to the budget, it going through full commission, out of the unassigned fund balance, those checks will be to them before September 8th or 9th, correct?
Well, I mean,
That's what
if
we
the
discussed
budget
last
is,
meeting,
It
yes.
could
Yeah.
be, right?
they could be, if the
Yeah.
budget is approved.
So they would get the money faster if we,
It's gonna be almost the same time frame. I mean, really, because
so we're not really putting them in any constraint. And also, they're funded from other resources. So it's not like we're the only funding source.
that's
So,
how I thought we got to that occurrence. Of them knowing what we were gonna, that we were gonna backtrack to this fiscal year now and give what they got, so.
so the big thing was we were cutting them out, the consensus, the opinion was we were cutting them out cold turkey. We were, but we're not the lone source of funding. And also, they would get the money pretty much around the same time. So there wouldn't be any delay.
So it's really irrelevant when they're saying it's a timeline thing. It's
So-
really not relevant.
And we're talking about 3 cents on a tax rate that affects all citizens, all property owners. We're talking, I've seen numbers where it's 400, we serve 440 people. I think that's wonderful. But we serve 57,000. And so many of those property owners, they will affect all of them. So that's my take on it.
What we approved, not in the last meeting, but the meeting before, was the list of the things that basically we had to do. There is one exception to that that we needed to include back on the list that we are required to find.
We did.
Thursday night.
We added
And I
it.
didn't think that got approved.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Yes,
did.
it did.
It did.
Yep, we added it.
Approve that.
30,570.
Yes, and we already made our intentions on the other, so I'm not really.
Take it on, thing you,
It was motioned and passed that we would send out the letter that would come in after the budgetary process was over. He motioned it, right?
Yes.
Am I misunderstanding? Yeah, so Donnie knows. I mean, all that was passed last Thursday.
the only concern I have about doing it, and that was a good motion, and I remember it now vividly, but we need to analyze the unassigned fund balance, because if you look at the numbers, you're going to be hitting right on the borderline.
These outside agencies, Carolyn, do they have to have the request in by the end of June to get their last year's funding?
So yes, for this fiscal year, they have to request the money. If,
Before July 1st? Okay. Rather than,
yeah, because if they've not requested the money, then it rolls back into fund balance. And that's happened, I think, maybe once or twice. But most of them have requested the money. I have one laying in there on my desk now that needs to be done. That they requested their quarterly, their last quarter request.
what they had in their budget, and I assume they're on a calendar year, we're on a physical year, then they would have enough funding available from other sources to carry it through until they request the funding from the county. They should.
Yeah, because technically if they're on a calendar year, you know, their budget, they've not even started their budget process for the next year. And so that would give them, if there was gonna be a reduction, they would have time to incorporate that in their budget planning for the next year, if they're calendar year.
All minds clear on that one?
And on the verify the document, you have the outside agency, which letter 518, the amount approved for 22-23 was at 1.599,499. You done, everybody is at, of course, we have to remember, you've already voted in the contract increase on your rescue squad, which would be above that. You compare that number with the one we were at 518, we were sitting at 1.68 without 1, 2, 3, 11, 14 agencies.
By the 1st of September, not that this makes a difference, but I'm just gonna throw it out there. By the 1st of September, we will not have the rollover from what was basically left over from this fiscal year. We won't have that number yet.
What about November?
It'll be October, November before I know for sure what that number is. So, I mean, I can look at it now, but I did this last year. I kind of tracked it because it was my first year trying to kind of figure that out. And it was literally all over the place. Because all the year-end accruals, all that stuff has to go in before that number can be determined. And it ended up being a whole lot less than I thought it was going to be initially. Even when we closed the books in June, I thought, okay, I can kind of guesstimate. It was a whole lot less than what I thought it was going to be. So I don't even want to try to take a stab at that at this point.
So are you saying now you do not want to take it out of unassigned? You want to put it back in the budget?
No, I'm gonna tell you truthfully, I'm with so many changes, I'm just about as confused as everybody.
Well, we did already approve to do it out of the unassigned fund balance. That was passed unanimously. And then I guess the whole theory was if something happened and we didn't have to raise taxes so much, we could always put it back in the tail end. But we needed to get it approved because we're running out of time. So. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
The only thing left to do is go what the presently approved motion by,
Doc.
Doc. Was there something?
So basically what we approved the other night was to take all of the mandated ones, keep them in the budgetary process, take all the others, give them what they got in 22-23, and pay them out of unassigned fund balance. That's where we were at when we stopped.
And if I've done my math correctly, Commissioner Deal could correct me. If we add back all the agencies at the 22-23 minus our first responders and all that are required to be a part of county funding, that puts us at 191,824.
That's 2 cents. That's what I got. That'll be 2 cents in the increase in tax.
Which comes out fine if our numbers don't mean that we have to add a whole lot at the tail end of this thing. I mean, there's that option of putting them back in. I see more surety in how we've done it so far and being able to change one way or the other.
So that was the motion that Mark made the other.
Yes, and to send it out in a letter form. That they would know what they were, the 22-23 was what they could expect. And we actually kind of started beating around on a letter a little bit and just add to or take away from. And then it can go out. So.
Send the letter out with those numbers and then a step-by-step instructions on this is how you bring your request back.
And most of them already know. I mean, all of these are they come back.
Let's
With the
not assume.
exception of what, 2? With the exception of 2, they've all been here before. So I think it's just 2, right?
3.
3, Compassion Center and then,
Carter County Drug Prevention,
yeah, but we took them off initially. They're not.
Compassion Center, and Chamber of Commerce.
So and we took the chamber off. Is y'all okay with leaving it like it is? I mean, we don't really need a motion on that, do we? Since it was already done and passed.
It's already
Okay.
passed.
All right, y'all ready to move on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Discussion of our next meeting agenda for June 12th. Obviously, are we gonna have to do more budget amendments to finish up? Okay, so we will finish up our amendment. We'll try to finish up our amendments.
Let's talk a little bit about the 12th before we even come up with an agenda. That's the COPA meeting at Northeast state that begins at 5:30 and probably will go for 2 hours or longer.
We need to try to change that day,
Yeah.
because there are people that want to attend that meeting.
I know several of us here do.
A meeting for, the healthcare.
What options do we have? Now, we put down that 15th, on the 15th, was that not the special commission meeting? Workshop.
It was going to be a workshop, but we are not sure that it will materialize into a workshop. I don't think we'll be ready for the commission workshop.
What else, what other meeting coincides on the 13th? Budget's on Monday night, what is on Tuesday night?
Animal shelter.
It's always last.
Is it on the Tuesday night, that next,
I thought that animal shelter was later in the month.
it will be the second.
I think it is the animal shelter that.
On that,
Follows budget.
so
Alternate night.
if we're not gonna need that workshop right then, could we use that day?
The 15th?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Let's do that.
Yeah, let's plan on that. Are y'all okay with Thursday, the
June the
15th?
15th,
Yes.
6 o'clock.
Do you have any other coinciding meetings, Karen?
Hang on. June the 15th will be the school board meeting, but I can do the same thing I did tonight.
Do you want to set it for 6:30?
That would help.
Can we do that? Y'all okay with
Move
that?
out of there and left Lori there Thursday.
That's fine.
So we'll do 6:30 then.
That's good for the girl. We had too much fun today.
I said we're gonna hear her sliding in here with the lights and I said, we'll hear you sliding in here with lights and sirens behind you.
Well, I was kind of like, I know they're all sitting there when I started the car. 'Cause I was
So-
right from the window.
Okay, so then if we have the budget workshop, do we need to move it to the following week, maybe the 22nd? Because we still need to get that in, right, as our meeting, so, they decided to keep Juneteenth as just no holiday, right?
That's the commission meeting.
So our meeting will be on the 19th, and then we could do the 22nd.
We'll have a special call.
That's why I mean, move it to the 22nd.
Yeah, and then the special call commission meeting on the 29th.
Yes.
Special call.
Special call for commission.
That do we need any more meeting days?
The special call for Heisman is on the 29th, correct?
What did you say?
What's the workshop you referring to?
June the 22nd.
I mean, what is that?
That's where they established it 2 years ago to where they could, after the budget committee and the finance department got all the numbers and everything accumulated, and come up with what we'll recommend on the floor for acceptance, that they call for a workshop with all the commissioners to familiarize them, take their heartburns, their beefs, their approvals, their kissing, the hugging, and yahs, and then be done with it. Then you have your regular call or special call on the 29th, where you don't have to address all that on the floor.
I guess good. So when is the planned final proposed budget going to be published is the question.
Well, if we have a special call meeting on the 29th,
Have to be 7 days prior to that.
10
days.
10 days prior.
If you're moving your budget meeting,
That's to be published on the 19th.
Meet early on the 19th. Used to do 9 a.m. meetings.
So that means on the 15th. That means you're gonna have to be ready to vote on it on the 15th.
what do we like as far as department budgets?
We're putting the, as they've been approved, they're being put into the, what I call the main schedule, is what goes to the state to see what if, I mean, I'm sure we've forgotten something, I'll be honest with you, we
Have
can't.
we gotten through most of those? Do we have any left?
She's working
I
on
think
them.
she's pretty close to caught up with everything.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I've done a first pass on the revenue. I'm still researching about, which I did a few of them today, but I've not really been in my office long enough to do much. I'm researching line items that don't make sense to me based on the way they were budgeted last year. So I'm pulling information for the past 2 years to try to figure out what's in those line items to see what would be the actual legitimate amount that should be in there, because we don't want to overstate,
So will
but we
you,
don't want to understate either, so.
will you be ready to work on that then on the, I mean, like, will we be able to do that on the 15th?
I hope so.
Because I think we'll be out of time.
Yeah, that's what I'm,
Well, it has to be completed by the 15th, because if you gotta give a 10-day
Yeah.
notice before,
Yeah, either that or who's your meeting later, that special call meeting you're having.
so does that mean it has to be published? Well, I guess it depends on who publishes it. So if we went with the press has a paper every day. So the press could publish it on the 19th. The Star publish it, it'd have to be to them before the meeting of the 15th.
Right.
Because they would have to have it on that Wednesday prior to the meeting on the Thursday.
I guess we could, I mean, could we possibly slide in I know nobody wants to work on Fridays, but a Friday, the 16th meeting, just in case we need it.
I can't be here on the 16th.
But that 19th, I mean,
I
I know
can't change.
19th, we're not doing anything, but I mean, it may be a holiday the paper's not gonna be published on. I don't know. I might ought to ask if that's the date you're absolutely counting on, 19th, you know.
Oh, because it's a holiday.
Well,
No, we
It's
opted
not
not
right.
to. No, we opted not to, so our commission meeting will still be that night.
Talking about the press. Yeah, the Stars is it's already too late to be in the Star for whatever. Not too late to be in the Star for
Well, I mean, as soon as,
June at all, yeah.
as soon as I feel like I've gotten a good handle on the revenue numbers, I'm gonna go ahead and email them out to everybody regardless of when the meeting is, to let you all review them, because at that point, we'll be able to see kind of where we stand and what our shortage is gonna be, because that decision's gonna have to be made.
And I will recommend, don't go to the paper, don't go to WJHL. Just hold it close to your chest until we know where we're gonna be.
Yes, I mean, I have additional information, but I've been extremely hesitant to put it out there for that reason. Because I'm not ready for it to be
You don't wanna get
broadcast, this
people-
is gospel at this point.
That there'll be less and then it not be, and I'd just rather wait until we have all those numbers verified by her, so we know, where we're gonna stand.
Because it does.
Cause I don't like getting my hopes raised and then having somebody come along and throw a wedge in those cogs. But today's the 8th, and then we do still have.
That's what I'm saying, no, I'm not gonna throw that number out there.
Could we do, 14th is on a Wednesday night.
That's fine with me.
Could y'all,
I mean, if we
could you
have-
manage a Wednesday night? You have
16th,
I can't.
church, don't you?
I have an appointment on the 16th, but if we need to do the 16th, I'll reschedule it.
I would really like to get one more meeting in just in case we need it. If we don't need it, we can cancel it.
Yeah,
But I would rather, I would feel safer because we're really down to the wire.
Crunch time.
the one you said where you have school board also, which day is that your plan with?
that's the 15th.
Okay, start your meeting 30 minutes later, gives her time.
I did, that's what we did, 6:30.
6:30.
Unless you wanted to do one more that week of the 19th. There's the 20th and the 21st. could get one in there.
Yes.
You wanna do the 20th? On a Tuesday?
Sure.
Can you do that, Carolyn? All right, let's just plan on doing that then. And if we don't need it, great.
The date on this one.
The
20th.
Yeah. Do you have any coinciding meetings? Is that one free? You don't have any other meetings? Okay. So we'll do that one at 6. So then our 2 meetings will be the 15th and the 20th. And then the workshop is the 22nd and the 29th is the special calls, correct? All right.
That's what we're shooting for.
Yep.
Okay. We'll aim
Let's
for those
go.
then.
What was your meeting on the 20th? It's too late to be published then, so I mean,
No, because, what do you mean?
it has to be published by the 19th if you're gonna try to
Oh.
approve it on the 29th. So if you're going past the 19th, then you need to cancel the special call commission meeting because you're not gonna be ready.
Can we move it? Well, no, that would be Friday. Reschedule. So we can.
Well, I mean, that's the 16th though. I mean, we're already meeting on the 15th. I'm not sure we're gonna accomplish.
You're not gonna get nothing done.
All right, we'll take the 20th off then, since that one's not gonna happen.
No, the 20th was the, oh, no, never mind. The
Yeah, 'cause
22nd was the workshop.
Let's confuse each other.
I know it. We sound like you now. It's all confused. We can't remember what we voted on. Okay. Josh, you've done a wedge in our talks. All right, we'll just stick with the 15th.
It's all your fault. Usually it's my fault. This
It's
is
just that
your
pesky state law, you know. we gotta-
That keeps getting in the way, don't it?
Those are each and every-
Well, okay, let's move on then. Let's just do the 15th because.
Well, we can meet on the 30th on the Friday, which is the last day of June. That would give us an extra day. If
But that's a Friday night. Well, how will people on the commission feel about a Friday night?
Usually- I mean, it
They'll
just
probably
gives you
by the
more
fact that
days.
Zion on that too.
We're old. Friday nights are just like.
It's up to y'all, whatever you want to do, whatever you think.
I mean, that's still, I mean,
You still don't have
you'd
to.
have to have it published on the 20th, and you're talking about meeting on the 20th to do something that evening. I mean, it's gotta be, if you're meeting on the 29th, it has to be, come out in the newspaper on the 19th. So, I mean,
Well, what she's talking about is if we do it the 30th,
right, so that's what I'm saying, so you,
wouldn't that still give us that one extra day that we need?
no, I mean, it would have to, if you're talking
It's
about.
on the 20th.
It'd have to be published in on the,
20th, yeah, I mean, but that's not gonna make any difference between the 15th and the 16th. I mean, you're still not gonna be able to meet on the 20th again, you're not gonna get another meeting. You know, it has to be in the paper that day.
Yeah, because it'll have to be sent to the paper. at
Oh,
least
yeah, and it's
24
gonna
hours.
take them,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna take them a couple of days probably to get it ready to go in.
The press meets the statute. You can use it instead.
well, it's just aim for the 15th, I guess.
Yeah.
Just aim for the 15th, bring caffeine and some dinner. We might hear you a while.
Well, once I finish vetting these other accounts, I will be ready to send out the revenue and I can go ahead and send it out. But as I said, let's not go overboard with it until we've met back to discuss it as a group.
All right, so that's all we're gonna do in meetings then. So that's the additional discussion on June meetings.
15th, 22nd, and 29th, is that correct?
Yes.
Right.
This is when I start getting nervous, Nancy, because then you know you're down to the wire. All right, okay, let's move on then. We've got motions from the landfill committee. These are not in here, are they? Yeah.
Motions are not in the amendments.
Okay, this one, okay, this is solid waste fund, okay. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Okay, so there is a motion to move funds into line 101-55-754-453, which are vehicle parts not to exceed $300 with funds coming from unassigned fund balance unless funds are available elsewhere. This is the lost key replacement to the truck, correct?
So moved.
Second.
Dr. Acuff, and who second?
I did.
Mr. Franklin, second. Any discussion on this? Okay, Chad, call the roll, please.
Who had the second? Brett Johnson.
Yes.
Julie Gwynn.
Yes.
Dr. Acuff. Layla Ward.
Aye.
Donnie Cable.
Yeah.
Danny Deal.
Yes.
Cody McQueen.
Aye.
All ayes. All right, next motion is to approve an increase in landfill's interim director's pay by $2,600 to cover June 1st through June 30th, and increase by $2,500 to cover July 1st through July 31st. And since Director Lyons is going to be out maybe a little longer, I think that's what this is about, right? Okay.
So
I
moved.
don't know if we needed to word it any different, but it was just to keep them from having to come back again and do it for a period of time.
Now, the amount for July 1st through July 31st will be part of next year's budget.
Right. While they were separated.
Okay, so we need to separate that now, don't we?
Do you want me to add that to the budget document that we just approved?
That probably would be best, and take it out of, just don't approve that last portion.
Yeah. So
Just go through June 1st through the 30th. That's only.
Are you
that's this
okay with
budget.
that?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so
I'm
that
okay
change-
with that.
That change will be to take out the increase by $2,500 to cover July 1 through July 31. So that will not be in there. That will go on the next one. So this motion is to approve an increase in landfill's interim director's pay by $2,600 to cover June 1 through June 30th. Dr. Acuff has the motion. Any second?
I already have a. Didn't I already have a second on that?
No, you had it on the first one. But we'll.
Well, that's discussion, yeah, I'll second it again, yeah. Huge discussion though, yeah.
That's the second one. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Shall we call the roll, please?
Brett Johnson.
Yes.
Julie Gwynn.
Yes.
Dr. Acuff.
Aye.
Layla Ward.
Yes.
Donnie Cable.
Yes.
Danny Deal.
Yes.
Cody McQueen.
Aye.
Okay, so I'm assuming that you will put that on there and then we'll redo it next, okay. All right, now we're up to review and approval of budget amendments. First one will be General Fund 101, item number 7, to transfer funds within the budget for juvenile services. Y'all want to do them all at one time? I need to do them all at one time. No?
You have to do them individually.
Individual, okay. So, to transfer funds within the budget for juvenile services, item number 7.
Well, a lot of these will be clean up.
Yeah.
Budget line items between where something's ended up being more than something.
Okay.
So the majority of the cleanup, we try to keep it basically right in-house within the department. It's only when there's not enough left in their department, there are a few that we're probably gonna find are gonna be issues that we have to pull it from somewhere.
Well, Josh, can we do like the whole, or just one, do we need to do one at a time?
Yeah, you used to do one budget amendment at a time.
Okay, all right, just making sure that.
Have any idea how many are on?
I mean, the way I think Aaron normally does is read each item off.
Okay. So they're each one, okay. All right, then we have, item on the floor, number 7, to transfer funds within the budget for juvenile services.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Johnson, Motion. Dr. Acuff was the second. Any discussion?
Might be confused about what you're asking me because I don't see the papers. Are you trying to do like each individual item of a?
That's what I was asking. Did we?
No.
That's what I thought. We can do the whole.
The whole fund, 101 fund.
Every item in one amendment, sure.
In 101 fund. Okay.
Usually they read through them all.
That's what I was.
Okay,
making sure.
I thought that's what you were asking. I thought you were trying to do
Okay,
like.
so Mr. Johnson.
Budget.
I miss it.
We're gonna remove these motions. Okay, let's start over. All right. Okay, so it is a general fund 101. Item 7, to transfer funds within the budget for juvenile services. Item number 8, to appropriate fund for the animal shelter for pet supplies. Number 9 is to make year-end adjustments between line items for general sessions court. Number 10 is audit services exceeded estimated cost for property assessor's office. Number 11. Is year-end budget amendment to clean up salary and related line items and reallocate funds due to shortages and costs of the previously approved raise for Sheriff's Department employees. All amendments completed using existing funds, nothing coming from fund balance. Number 12 is year-end budget amendment to clean up non-salary lines and reallocate funds to cover shortages. All amendments completed using existing funds, nothing coming from fund balance. And then number 13 is to reallocate funds to cover dues and memberships for General Sessions Court to the total of $672,741.91, with $1,000 coming from reserved funds.
Who is the reserve fund?
The animal shelter.
Animal shelter. That's something to collection. That's been.
Animal care, their donations come in as animal care, so that's, we can use them for food.
So who made that motion? Mr. McQueen made the motion.
Second.
Mr. Deal second. Any discussion on this? Okay, Jack, call roll, please.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Acuff, Randall Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cable,
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Buddy McQueen.
7 ayes. Thank you, guys. Next up is Solid Waste Fund 116. Reallocate funds from landfill to the recycling center in the amount of $10,000 with nothing coming from the unassigned fund balance.
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Acuff, is the motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Cable.
Oh, sorry. No, Mr. Cable was the second. Any discussion? Okay, shall we vote roll?
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Quinn,
Yes.
Dr. Acuff,
Aye.
Layla Ward, Donnie Cable.
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Buddy McQueen.
Okay, 7 ayes, thank you. All right, General Purpose School Fund 141. Item number 4, end of year cleanup, salary supplements for mentor and mentee teachers, special education. Number 5 is to recognize and appropriate funds for Ron Swanger Foundation. Number 6. Yeah, I'm there. Is year-end budget cleanup for Curry County Schools in the total of $366,450.72, with nothing coming from reserve or unassigned fund balance. Bear in mind, 141 is the one that we really just are just getting a
Nah, so-
142.
142, okay.
And in 141, historically, this has not been done, where we go in and clean stuff up in the budget. This is something new that was requested during the audit process from this past fiscal year.
All right, floor is open.
Move to approve.
Dr. Acuff makes a motion.
Second.
Ms. Ward, second. Any discussion? All right, we call roll?
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Dr. Rico,
Aye.
Layla Ward,
Yes.
Ron Cable,
Yes.
Andy Deal,
Yes.
Jody McQueen.
Aye.
Alright, 7 yes. Okay, School Federal Projects Fund 142. Number 5, to correct budget amendment 142-11, item 1. Number 6 is to reallocate funds for Innovative High School. Number 7 is to reallocate funds for Innovative School Model Grant. Total is $105,000 with nothing coming from fund balance or unassigned fund balance.
Point of order.
Yes.
This is federal fund. We don't have authority. We can review it and concur, it's all, but we can't approve it. Well, it's federal fund.
The approval's not needed, but that's what we talked about a couple of times. You all still
Just
want,
receive notifications on it.
still wanted to see them.
Move on.
We don't need to do anything. All right then, that is all of our budget amendments for tonight. Our next meeting is scheduled for June the 15th at 6:30.
I don't think it should be noted as record tonight's date, not June 19th, should it not? It should be June the 8th, because this is when we're approving these amendments, not on the 19th.
I made the day as the day that it's going through full commission. I can make that adjustment.
I guess that's fine if the county attorney thinks that's okay.
I didn't even get
The date is,
Yeah, that's the way it's been.
Okay, all right, if it's been that way.
If it needs to be adjusted, I'll adjust it. I just,
instead of showing tonight's date, it shows the 9th, and it will be before the full commission.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, today's gonna be approved by the full commission.
Okay, I just wanted to make us, not auditory,
Okay,
not an
so
auditory.
any additional commissioner comments? Okay. Well, then we will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Very good. Okay. Quiet, you have to talk louder.
Let them all get out of here.
Did you talk?
You're so quiet.
Yeah. They act like they won't leave over there. They don't like our company, they just won't get out of here.
I'm used to
love being here.
Thank you, guys, and I do appreciate y'all staying longer last week. We got a lot done, so.
Yep.
Hopefully, we can make things.
8:30 to 8:30.
It will.
Amendments,
I got
they
it.
have the commitment.
Yeah, that's the day they're gonna get approved there, so.
Yeah.
That's kind of-
That's when they technically get approved.
Geez, we